Hello everybody out there in the bookverse, it's Stephanie, and today I'm going to do a video that I'm really excited about. It's a very common end of the year video. Everybody kind of does it, and I am going to do my favorite books that I read in 2020. Now, these are my favorite books that I read in 2020, not necessarily books that came out in 2020. So some of these will be 2020 releases, but some of them will be older books as well. If you're new to my channel, hey, welcome. Thank you so much for watching my videos. If you'd like to see more from me, definitely hit the subscribe button down below and the bell icon so you'll be notified when I post new content. But let's jump into these books because I had an amazing reading year in 2020 and I have some really, really good books to talk about. The first book that I'm going to mention in this video is one that I actually just finished this week and I loved it. It was amazing. I had so much fun with this book. I liked it so much more than I was expecting to because I just read it for a shelf space book club, and that is Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan. This book is so much fun. I was just invested in this really fast-paced plot the whole time. I just wanted to know what happened and I couldn't stop reading it. This is a book that is very politically based and it has so much to do with the politics and the scheming and all those types of things going on within this world because the monarchy has been recently overthrown and this new group of people are trying to set up their government while also fending off an attack from neighboring country. So this world's magic is definitely different and unique. It has to do with gunpowder for part of it, and these people can snort the gunpowder in order to give themselves extra enhanced abilities, but also they can control bullets because they use the gunpowder. And also there are other people who are able to do regular magic that we would think of, like manipulate the elements and those types of things as well. So definitely a unique premise and book. I really like being on the side of the people who are overthrowing the monarchy, which is very different than most fantasy books. We are on the side of the monarchy while people are trying to overthrow them. So I like that aspect. And also I just really enjoyed the twists of this book, figuring things out. It was almost a mystery that you were trying to solve the whole time. And I loved a lot of the characters. A lot of them were really flawed and had definite issues, but I enjoyed following them. I really love the character Kapol. She was so cute and so amazing, and her addition to this book was something that I think definitely put it on another level because she was very different than most of the other characters. And the writing style was great as well. I think it was very well paced, and the way that we were introduced to the world and the politics and the magic and all those things was really well done as well. It didn't feel too info dumpy, but you still got the information that you needed. I love this book. I am really excited to jump into the rest of this series, and this could be a little bit of recency effect that this is on here, but this is a great book. I would highly, highly recommend it if you love those high fantasy books that are very, very politically driven and they have a lot of fighting and scenes in them. This is one that I think you would definitely enjoy. The next book I'm going to talk about is also a fantasy book that is fairly politically driven as well. Not quite as much in this book as in the second one, but that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I love this book so much. It just was so gripping and it tugged at all the feels and it was amazing, and I just couldn't get enough of this book. This is another one that I couldn't put down. I think I read it in 2 days. It was so engaging and I absolutely loved the world and how much it just made you feel. It was so well written in that aspect. This is a Chinese inspired fantasy that follows a young girl who is born a peasant, and she decides she's going to study really hard and get into the most prestigious military academy in their country, and she does. And so we follow her training there and then in the war that follows. And so this book is very much focused on military strategies and also on training, and it has a lot of aspects of found family in here where you become a part of a group that really understands you and you can relate with, and that you can just become their family because none of you really have family. I love that aspect in books, but also I really enjoy how the war was portrayed in this book. It wasn't glorified, it was dirty and brutal, and it was just so well written. I liked Rin as a character. I know a lot of people don't like her, but in this book, at least, I did enjoy her. She made a lot of stupid mistakes and she made a lot of stupid choices, but I just liked following her. I liked following her perspective, and I love that training at the academy trope. It's something that I definitely enjoy in books. So I absolutely adored this book. I cannot wait to continue with the series. I'm actually reading the second one right now, but I think the Poppy War is just so unique. It has interesting magic and politics and all little intricate things that were written to this book that become important. I just really have enjoyed it a lot. I couldn't stop reading this book. It's just amazing, and it definitely deserves to be on this list of best books that I read in 2020. The next book is the one and only middle grade that made it onto this list, and that is Hollowpox, The Hunt for Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. I absolutely adore the Morgan Crow series, the Nevermore series, whatever you want to call it. It is so sweet and wholesome and amazing, and I love the characters, the atmosphere, the writing style, the magic. Everything about it is just enjoyable to the next degree. It is my favorite middle grade series. I'm in love with this series. So the first book kind of follows this girl named Morgan Crow, who is allegedly a cursed child, and she is supposed to die on her 11th birthday, but instead a man named Jupiter North comes and whisks her away to the land of Nevermore, where she has to compete in these trials to join the Wondrous Society in order to stay and live in Nevermore. And this book is the third book in that series, so I won't go into a ton of detail about it, but I read the second and third book, I believe, this year. Loved both of them. Both were 5 stars. They're absolutely amazing, and I just can't wait till the next book in this series comes out. Morgan is a fun, sassy character, and she just is such a good person, but she still has that little bit of sass going on. So I love following her and hearing her kind of perspective side of that. Her patron, Jupiter North, is just sweet and good and wholesome, and her little friends are so much fun to follow. I just absolutely love the found family aspect in this book. It was very well done, very well executed. You feel like you're just a part of this group, and they love each other, they look out for each other, and it is amazing. I love the pacing of this book. I love the magic system. I honestly can't think of anything in these books that I don't love. They're so good, and I can't wait to get to the fourth one, which I feel like is probably not going to come out for another year or two, but I would highly recommend these books for anyone who's a fan of middle grade, and even anyone who's not a huge fan of middle grade. They're still really good. If you like fantasy, I would say definitely check these out. The next book on this list I feel like I read so long ago, I was actually questioning whether I read it in 2020 or not, but that is The Starlight C by Erin Morgenstern. Erin Morgenstern is the author of The Night Circus, which I absolutely adore, one of my favorite books of all time. But The Starlight C is her second book, and this one follows a man he's bookish, he likes video games, he's kind of a nerd, which I loved following because I can relate a little bit to that. And he finds this door when he's a kid and decides not to go through it. But then later on in his life, he finds a book that writes about his experience finding that door and not going through it. And that leads him on this whole adventure to this magical world of the Starlight C, and there's books and there's cats and there's magic, and it's just such an amazing time. This book is beautifully written. It is gorgeous, like beyond anything. It is such beautiful writing. I absolutely adore it. Some people don't love that though, so I get that if you don't love the flowery, beautiful writing style, but I do. It just sucks me into the story so much, and I loved how atmospheric this book was. The atmosphere in this feels so real, and it feels so magical and like a fairy tale, and like you are a part of this magical world. Anytime you read this book, you just get lost in it. I absolutely adored it. I think it was a little bit slow, which is a lot of people's complaints about this book, but that didn't bug me because I just enjoyed my time reading it so much. I loved the cats. I think the cats were some of my favorite parts of this. There are just little cats down in the like Starlight C type area. I I don't remember what it's called. It was a while ago, but they were so funny and so entertaining. And just a lot of the way that the story goes, I wasn't expecting. It definitely takes some turns that I didn't see coming, which I do love in books. I love when things happen that I didn't predict, but that, you know, obviously there were hints towards and things that you could have predicted potentially. So I think that this was so well written, so well executed. I absolutely love this book. It is just beautiful. This is probably the most beautifully written book that I read this year. I feel like we're kind of on a theme of beautifully written books that really have great atmospheres, because the next book on this list is The Labyrinth of the Spirits by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This is translated from Spanish. I believe that he originally wrote it in, and it is the fourth book in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series. They're not necessarily a continuous series, like you don't pick up where the last one left off necessarily, but I would recommend reading them in order. The first one is The Shadow of the Wind, so I would say it is best to read this series in order, but it's not necessarily necessary for you to do that if you don't want to do it that way. There just will be spoilers. But this is the fourth one, this is the final one, and this kind of wraps up the story. I don't even know how to describe this book to you, honestly. So really, I guess the basis of it is there is this woman who is an investigator, and she is trying to investigate the disappearance of this high political official, but there are people working against her because there are definitely nefarious things going on underground in this book, and it starts to pull in some things from the stories that you have read before, from the books that came out before in the series, and there's definitely tie-ins, and it's really interesting to see those little Easter eggs and the tie-ins that they pull together in this book. I absolutely love it. His writing style is gorgeous. It makes you feel so immersed in this book. It's set in Spain, in Barcelona mainly, but it does jump around a little bit more in this book than in the others. Mainly we are in Barcelona. I believe it's in the 50s. Yeah, it's in the late 1950s, and so it's post-war, and there are a lot of references to like political things or some Spanish specific things that I don't necessarily get because I am American, but some of them I recognize the references, some of them I did not, but I still absolutely adored this book. It is so gripping. I guess you could say it's ultimately a thriller. You're trying to figure out almost the whodunit while trying not to get killed in the process, and it's amazingly written. So if you love books that are beautifully written, have that element of suspense, have kind of the historical fiction aspect coming into it as well, with a great cast of characters and some really, really good twists, I would highly recommend this series. I would start with The Shadow of the Wind, but this one was beautiful. I didn't love the ending of it. I feel like the epilogue really didn't even need to happen. It didn't add anything in my opinion, and it actually just kind of drug on. But before that, perfect. So good. The next book on this list is a more recent read, and it's probably not going to surprise anyone who's been watching my channel, but that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is her adult fantasy novel that is about a girl who makes a deal with a devil in order to live forever, but the consequence is that no one is going to remember her. She can't leave a mark on the world. She can't write anything. She can't paint, draw, nothing like that, nothing that will leave a lasting impression on people, and no one will remember her. And then it gets really interesting when she is in modern day New York. She walks into a bookstore and someone remembers her. So our story kind of goes from there. We are jumping back and forth between the past and the present, so we get a lot of those amazing historical fantasy vibes when we were in France in the past, and she's interacting with this devil that she has made this deal with, who is trying to get her to give up, say that he can take her soul, and that she has had enough of life, and she is just stubborn and strong-willed and will not give in no matter how hard things get. She is determined to just live life to the fullest, to make it everything that it can be, to see things, and to try to get herself to leave some sort of a mark, to find loopholes in the rules that have been set for her within this deal that she made with this devil. And then you jump to the future where she is interacting in New York with this boy who can remember her, and she is trying to figure out how this could be and just enjoy the fact that someone can remember her and she can actually have a half normal life with this boy. It's very interesting. It's very compelling to follow Addie throughout her journey. You feel so deeply for her. She goes through so many hard things and she really has to fight in order to keep going, in order to not give up. And I love Addie as a character. I think she is so fun to follow. She's just interesting and fierce, and I love her. And I love Luke, the devil. He is one of my favorites. I love their banter back and forth. I think their interactions are some of my favorite. And I ultimately enjoyed the time in the past better than the time in the future, but I did enjoy both very much. It is a very beautiful book as well. The last 3 books have kind of just been these gorgeously written atmospheric books that suck you into the story and you don't want to put them down. And that is something that I definitely got out of Addie LaRue. This is one of my favorite books of all time, and it is so beautiful. I just absolutely love it, and I would highly recommend it if you love very character-focused, character-driven books. So only one author made it onto this list twice, so the next 2 books are going to be from the same author, and I don't think that'll surprise anyone that it is Brandon Sanderson. So the first is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I read the Mistborn series this year and absolutely fell in love with that. I just grabbed the first book in that series, even though, you know, all of them could be on this list, but the first one just really gets you into that world. You get so invested in these characters. This book starts off following this band of kind of ragtag people that have been pulled together to pull off this heist to ultimately steal a kingdom. And our main character, Vin, is kind of pulled into this when it's found out that she has these amazing magical abilities. And the magic system in this book is very interesting. It centers around metals, and when a person ingests them, if they have that particular ability, they can burn that metal inside them, and that gives them certain powers, like the power to push against metal or pull against metal, or to affect emotions or different things like that. And it is fascinating to learn about this magic system. It's a fairly hard magic system. It has lots of rules around it, which I love. I think it was very well developed, and I love our main character, Vin. She is so strong, and she's an amazing female character. She's just willing to do what she needs to do in order to contribute to the team, to learn more about this magic system, and ultimately to make the world better for her and for the other people within this kingdom, this world. I loved her. I loved Sazed. He was my absolute favorite character in the whole series. He just had this amazing calming presence. You just felt so drawn to him, and that he was like strong and smart, knowledgeable. He kind of had this wise man aura about him that I absolutely loved, yet he was always there taking care of them. I just absolutely love Sazed so much. And the twists in this book were so good. Things would happen and I would not see them coming, and it would just be so exciting. I was excited a ton in this book. I was extremely invested. I really couldn't put this book down. I just had to know what happened. It was so much fun. I didn't see so many things coming. It was just amazingly written. The pacing was great in this book. The character development, getting you invested within this crew and getting to know all the different people that were a part of it, and then really caring about them all. I don't know. It was so well written, so well done. I absolutely love this series, and it's also a really good introduction to adult fantasy. If you haven't read a ton of adult high fantasy, this is a really nice, easy transition to that if you are looking to get into that. And the second Brandon Sanderson on this list is Stormlight Archive books. So I lent the first one to my mom, so I don't have that. And also they're really thick, so I'm not gonna hold them all up, but I have Words of Radiance here, and I absolutely love Words of Radiance, so it can be on this list, that's fine. But I read the Stormlight Archive books that are out so far this year and absolutely fell in love with them. This series is amazing. It is so well written. It is such a well developed world, and I absolutely love it. The kind of initial premise of the series is that the Parshendi killed the king of the Alethi, and now they are at war for vengeance. That's really how it starts out, kind of the big bang that starts all of this going in these books that we see. And so we're following multi-perspectives in this book. We're following Dalinar, who is kind of a warlord high prince, the brother of the king that was assassinated, who is really involved in these wars. We're following Kaladin, who was a warrior, but he was sold as a slave, and now he is a bridge runner within these war camps. And he's just very invested in helping other people and trying to keep other people safe. And we're also following Shallan, who is a girl who wants to become a scholar, but her ultimate plan actually is to steal an artifact in order to bring it back to her family to save their lives, their fortune, to save face, because they're like a titled family. And that's really kind of how it starts out, but it branches off so crazy from there. Like, this world gets ridiculously huge. There's so much going on in here that there is no way I could summarize it for you in this video. It would just be too much, and we couldn't do that. But I absolutely adore this series. I love the characters so much. I think the character development is really well done, and the world building is exceptional. This world is huge, and there's so much politics going on, especially in the Oathbringer and Words of Radiance. We're really getting into the politics of the world as a whole, and we're also getting to know a lot more about the magic system and how that works. It's very complex. It's really a complex series, and it is a lot to learn and to digest, but I absolutely love it. This book has so many big reveals that have you on the edge of your seat, and you're just invested and can't stop reading because you have to know what happens. And the endings of these books all have very big, huge finales that are amazing. I absolutely love how this book ends. I did not see it coming, and I was just so I love that about Brandon Sanderson books. I think he does an amazing job about throwing in these huge plot twists that keep you invested, keep you reading, and I absolutely love these books. I love all the development within the world and the characters and the magic and everything. It's so well done, and I absolutely love it. And the last book on this list is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. I actually loaned this entire series out to my mom, and so she is reading them, but this series is a Russian-inspired fantasy series that follows a girl named Vasya who can see these demons or spirits that are traditional Russian, like, folklore spirits, and she can see them and knows they exist, but they are starting to fade because most people are stopping believing in them or feeding them or showing them their respect because they have converted to Christianity, and Christianity says that they can no longer do that. So Vasya is a very wild girl within this world where women are supposed to be very proper and to marry and to have children and to know their place in society, and she just doesn't. She loves going out running through the woods, and she loves riding horses, and she loves interacting with these spirits and helping them to survive and getting to know them and all those things. And the biggest thing that I love about this series is the atmosphere of it. It feels very fairy tale-esque, and I absolutely love books that have a magical wood vibe to them. It's one of my favorite things in books, honestly. I absolutely adore it, and that's something that this series does extremely well, especially the first and the third books. The second book kind of is set in a city type place, but I absolutely loved The Bear and the Nightingale. Vasya was a great female protagonist to root for, and just watching her contend with all these societal norms that she had to fight against and being expected to just do what she's told, to marry and to become this person that society says that she has to be, and then she fights it and she wants to be free and she wants to live her life the way that she feels is best for her, and I love that so much about her. She is an amazing character. She's very well developed because it's kind of a coming of age story. We see her from when she is little all the way until she is pretty much grown, I guess. I don't remember how old she is, maybe 18. But that is something that is very well done in this book, and I absolutely adore it. So that is something that I loved reading this year. This series was easy for me to read very quickly, and I absolutely loved my time within this book. So those are my favorite books of 2020. I only put 9 on this list because I only had 9 of my least favorite books of 2020, so I figured I should keep them even. But let me know what your favorite book was of 2020. What book did you think was just absolutely the best thing that you read this year? Let me know down in the comments. And as always, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.